it seems that Oyo State is very serious about its role in food production. We're looking at food security and then Oyo State agribusiness focus. So talk to us about the level of seriousness of Oyo State to its commitment to agribusiness generally, especially partnering with the private sector.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing on board this very, very important question at this point in time of our life as a nation. I think the first thing that I would like to mention is that this general problem that we are experiencing now is something that Oyo State's government has foreseen 4 or 5 years ago. In 2019, when the new government came on board, the first thing we did was to x-ray where we are on the issue of agriculture and agribusiness. And without going too much into the details, we developed a strategy, which at a point in time I will share with us, on how we are going to tackle the issue of food security within our state. And of course, at large, supporting Nigeria as a country. We look at what we will do at a short term, we look at what we should do at a mid-term, and we look at what we do at long term. So what is happening now in terms of food insecurity that we see across the whole of Nigeria? Yes, it's something that is a big concern to all of us, but I must say that it didn't meet us as a shock, because we premise our own decision based on data, that we had at that particular point in time. As far back as 2017, it's been made clear that 44%, of Nigerians are either medium to high food insufficient. We knew that was a problem. We also know that over $10 billion is being expended annually on food importation, to Nigeria, as it were. We knew that was an issue. We also knew that we sat on a landmass of over 28,000 square kilometers, which, put it in a context, is bigger than the whole of southeast of Nigeria, or bigger than Rwanda as a country. But of that land, we were only, which is over 70% of it as arable, we were only cultivating less than around 10 to 15% at that particular point in time. We also knew that was an issue. Beyond that, we also saw that the key player or actor in our agricultural food system at that particular point in time was primarily smallholder farmers. And that will dovetail to the question that you've just asked me. So we know that if we need to continue with those actors, that are just smallholder farmers, we won't be able to achieve what we plan towards achieving, set out by His Excellency the Governor of the state, to be food sufficient. Because if I give you an example, of these 28,000 square kilometers of land, we choose to do just 10%, which will be around 2,000, around 2 million hectares of land, 2.8 million hectares of land. It will take us 4 million smallholder farmers to do that. If we say we are going to do 20%, then it means that we will use almost the whole population of the state to cultivate just 20%, of that land. Then we know that is not sustainable. That can be the best way to go. But of course, we recognize, strongly that smallholder farmers has a place. They've been the great actor providing, for over many years. And in addition to that, good numbers of these smallholder farmers in our state are already aged, above the age of 65. And lastly, we also saw that the budget of the agricultural sector around that particular point in time, 2019, in Oyo State, was just a mere 0.43% of the total annual budget. What the African Union CADAP recommend for any country, and this dovetails to subnationals as well, that we do anything reasonable on agriculture is 10%. So we were saying 0.4%, and we knew that is an issue as well. In addition to that, this 0.4%, we question where it's going to. Majority of those 0.4% were not going to capital expenditure. So this guided the strategy that we developed for your state for short, medium, and long term. And some of the things that we are seeing today are as a result of those strategies. So I need to make that clear, that we have strategy in Oyo State that we are working with. Of course, we tweak it here and there, to ensure that it meets contemporary issues that arises. So one of the first things that we did was to say that we need to bring in new actors. We cannot just continue with that primary actor of smallholding and expect to see miracle. So that led us to designing a special purpose vehicle to see how best we can groom or we can support attracting bigger farmers or commercial farmers to complement, what the smallholder farmers are doing. And because of that, we established an agency, that focuses primarily on designing strategy, on providing policy, on supporting enabling environment towards attracting bigger and larger farmers to the state. And one of the things that the agency did at the early stage was to look at the possibility of how we can stimulate agriculture in the diverse regions of the state. We saw that it is critical. There is nothing, there is nowhere you can have agricultural transformation without having rural infrastructural transformation. So we put this on board. And that led to the decision of the government in terms of infrastructural targets. If you've been to Oyo State in the past 4 or 5 years, you will see that over 67% of the road construction that were done in Oyo State were done in our agrarian areas, in the primary zones, that we have designated for agricultural transformation. So those road connectivities has been done. And we also agreed, as a state, that beyond building roads, we need to also put in place a strategy, what we call one region, one hub. So we have like 6 or 7 regions in Oyo State, and we agree that in each of these regions, we will have what we call agribusiness industrial hubs. We have one built already to 90% finalization. But the interesting thing is that even though we were at 90%, this hub is completely occupied by private sector. And I think that is where you're making reference to. So we have over 10 medium to large private companies within that hub now that are going to be processing agricultural product. They are there. This is not a case of they will be. They are already in that hub that will be processing agricultural product, to diverse processed materials. But beyond that as well, the first hub is built on 1,100 hectares of land, at Fashola between Oyo and Isei, and this hub now, like I said, has both the production center, it has the processing center, it has accommodation, and all what have you that you can talk about. So the land there is being cultivated, the processing center is already commencing. But the hub, as I mentioned, is not just meant to cater for those private sector that are within the hub alone, but that is expected to stimulate agriculture around the whole of the vicinity, because the materials that will be used for most of this processing will be gotten from somewhere. So this is gradually increasing the capacity of production.